Yesterday, the government announced its plan to increase teacher numbers despite axing hundreds of teacher jobs last year. And is Aotearoa about to become part of the AUKUS alliance, which involves nuclear submarines earmarked for Australia? We spoke with Prime Minister and former Education Minister Chris Hipkins this morning and started by asking when the government was hoping to recruit around 1,000 new teachers and how many were still available after hundreds were laid off last year.
So the overall number of teachers employed since we've become the government has increased by about 3,000. What we announced yesterday was a change to the formula that's used to employ teachers in primary schools. At the moment, in the years 4 to 8, the formula is 1 teacher for every 29 students. That's the highest ratio across the whole of the schooling system. So we're bringing that down to 1 to 28. That's a first step. In time, I'd like to see that come down further. But that does result, even just that small step, results in us needing to find another 320 more teachers in order to fill the vacancies that will be created by that. And in reality, that won't be even across the country either. So, we've got a lot of work to do to recruit more teachers because in addition to this, current collective bargaining has an allocation of extra classroom release time for our primary school teachers. And that needs hundreds of extra teachers in order to pay for that as well. So there's no question, we're going to be out there recruiting more teachers in the next few years.
So we want to recruit more teachers, but in November last year, the government axed 355 primary and intermediate full-time teachers because of falling school roles. So with these smaller roles, are there going to be smaller classrooms? What's the rationale?
So there's a formula every year. The number of teachers employed fluctuates based on school roles. What these changes that we're doing now, in terms of changing the ratios, but also that extra classroom release time, it'll mean that we'll be able to keep more of those teachers in the system, even though there are fewer young people in the classrooms. That will mean smaller class sizes. It will mean more individualised tuition potentially for the students.
You're wanting to recruit teachers, you're also wanting to recruit nurses. Why would anyone be interested in taking up a new teaching role or a nursing role when pay conditions are the subject of constant industrial action?
We're in bargaining at the moment, and I have to say, the teaching profession, as with others, as with the nursing profession, when they're in bargaining, they probably tend to highlight the aspects of the job that they are frustrated by rather than the parts of their job that they love. As previous Minister of Education, I had the opportunity to interact with a lot of teachers when we weren't in bargaining. And I can tell you that it's a job that they absolutely are passionate about and that they get a lot of satisfaction out of. It's a great job. Yep. You get to shape the futures of so many young people and you get to see the difference that your work has on the lives of future generations of New Zealanders. While I acknowledge, in bargaining, you probably don't hear the best parts of the profession being put forward. That doesn't mean it's not a great job.
Absolutely. So the incentives you're offering would need to align with teachers' and nurses' expectations. And these are topics always on the agenda when both industries call for industrial action. How are you hoping to convince these workers to stay here in Aotearoa and not think or consider moving offshore?
I stick with the teaching profession at the moment because that's where the bargaining is happening right now. The current offer on the table will see the top of the salary, the top of the base pay scale for teachers increased to about $100,000 a year. That's a reasonably good base salary. And then in addition, teachers can earn additional allowances and units over and above that as well. So I think that does make New Zealand teacher salaries competitive when compared with international competitors like Australia, for example. We want to keep our best and brightest here in New Zealand and we want to keep them teaching.
Absolutely.
So that has been something that we've been focused on and shaping the offer that's on the table for teachers at the moment.
Okay, well, looking at the health sector now, I believe we're trying to help healthcare workers gain residency in New Zealand. How do you ensure cultural competency in areas including nursing and social work?
Yeah, so we are on a journey of international recruitment in areas like nursing at the moment because we need to get more nurses into our hospitals and into our health system as quickly as possible. So bringing them in from overseas is one way that we can do that more quickly. Of course, we're training a lot more as well. There are cultural competency programs designed to support people who have come into the system from overseas to just understand a bit more about New Zealand, understand more about the needs of the population. It's important that we provide those opportunities to those who are coming in from overseas. So there are programs that are designed to do exactly that.
Okay, and please tell me Māori are involved.
Oh, absolutely. In terms of the cultural competency work, Māori play a really important role in making sure that our new teachers, our new nurses, our new health professionals get up to speed with what's a bit different about New Zealand.
Okay, on another topic, according to the IMF, New Zealand's debt is amongst the largest of the top 40 advanced economies in the world. We're clearly spending more than we earn. Cost of living is skyrocketing. How do you plan to get the country out of this hole?
So New Zealand's government debt's actually relatively low compared to the rest of the world. What we do know, though, is that household budgets are squeezed at the moment. Things like the escalation in house prices in recent times have resulted in households taking on significantly more debt, particularly at that first home buyer end of the markets. And so whilst government spending only has a relatively limited impact on that in the New Zealand context, it would be fair to say that inflation and making sure that we try and keep inflation under control, get it back down to a more manageable level, that's certainly been one of the things that we've had front of mind as we put this year's budget together, which people will see in a few weeks' time.
Prime Minister, there are calls for a public debate around Aotearoa potentially joining the non-nuclear part of the AUKUS alliance. How do you respond to those calls?
We haven't made any decisions on that at the moment. AUKUS is primarily the main part of the deal is nuclear-powered submarines that are being supplied to Australia and the UK alongside their partner of the US. Those are three countries that we work very closely with on security matters and on defence matters, and we'll continue to work closely with them. But New Zealand's a proudly nuclear-free country, and we're going to stay that way. And so that means that the fundamental cornerstone of AUKUS, which is the nuclear-powered submarines, that's not something that New Zealand's going to be involved with.
Right. Okay, and you'll be attending the coronation of the King next month. What are you most looking forward to?
Look, the coronation of a king is a pretty special moment for many New Zealanders. It's not something that's ever happened in their lifetimes. And so I'll be proud to represent New Zealand there. The new king will be our new head of state. So we will have a New Zealand delegation there to fly the flag for us Kiwis. But it's also an opportunity for me to engage internationally with a number of other world leaders who I'll have the opportunity to meet with, potentially in the margins of those formal coronation events. And of course, we've got a trade agreement with the UK that's in its final stages of ratification. And so the ability to be in the UK and to give that another little nudge, that's something that I think is potentially, again, an upside for New Zealand.
Prime Minister of New Zealand, Chris Hipkins, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your time. Ngā mihi ki a koe.
Kia ora, Neil. Thank you.